Om Vagartha viva sampraktau Vagartha pratipattaye Jagata pitarau vande Parvati parameshwaro Vasudeva sutam devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki paramanandam Krishnam vande Jagadgurum Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Harihi Om. Tritiya Kakshayam Sarvesham Swagatam. Foundations of Sanatana Dharma course. Okay. Gata Saptahe Pramananam Vishaye Asmabihi Charcha Krita Yadyapi Binna Binna Pramanani Santi Tatapi Vedaha eva Parama Pramanam iti Asmin Vishaye Kinchit Asmabihi Charcha Krita. Adya Tritiya Kakshayam Veda Vangmaye, the Vedic repository, Khatamasti, Tatra Keke Vishayaha, Katam Stapitavantaha, Tesham Paraspara Kidrisha Sambandaha, Ityetesham Vishaye Kinchit Vayam Pashyamaha Adya. Before we start today's session, I will go over quickly. I have a little more for today. Nevertheless, I will go quickly through some of the questions. We'll spend a few minutes and then we will move on. So last week we saw all these. We will move to the knowledge repository. Oh, I have picked up a wrong. I think I have picked up a wrong file. Let me. Looks like I have taken the wrong file. Sorry. Okay. Yes. So there were about 20 odd questions, and what I realized was some of the questions probably we will answer today. So therefore, I'm sort of skipping them. Some of them will answer in the future sessions. Remaining, I'm taking. So, so there are questions. There are 6-7 questions. What is the difference between Vedas and Upanishads? What are the differences between 4 Vedas? Upanishads considered Shruti or not? These kinds of questions. Today's session will answer these. So therefore, I'm not really going to look at these questions. Then there were quite a few questions on karma and rebirth. I've just listed them here. About 7 questions. Things about afterlife, if a child is born autistic, is it purely on karma, and so on. So again, I'm not going to take these questions today, simply because we will be actually addressing some of these in one of the future sessions. Therefore, I will just skip these 2 set of questions. So there were a couple of questions on Shraddha. So one question was, what is the difference between Shraddha and Vishwas? And the other question was, what is exactly Shraddha? Is it faith or is it something more than that? Now this, of course, there is a little difficulty in connecting a Sanskrit word with an equivalent English word. But I think the closest we can get is faith, as somebody has mentioned. But to only qualify it, Shraddha is, I would say, pure, unwavering faith. I can add some more adjectives to the faith. In fact, some people use the word blind faith. So I tell them faith is already blind. You don't have to add blind on the top of it. So I would also say Shraddha is where proof of reason for existence of things is strictly unnecessary. If you start exploring all that, then there is no Shraddha. The very definition of Shraddha is all these proof and reason and also are not required. Let's say Guru Vakya and Shruti. That's where the Shraddha should be. And the closest one can think of is the attitude of a 1-year-old child towards its mother. In fact, that is the purest form of Shraddha you can see. The child has absolute faith and belief in the mother, and that's how it survives actually in some ways. Therefore, that is the way we should understand Shraddha. Vishwas and Shraddha are sort of synonymous. In a different context, we can use the word Vishwas, but in a philosophical, in a spiritual context, Shraddha is a more appropriate word. There were some questions on Vedas, temple, God, and so on. So there was one question which said, how did we get this Shabda Pramana or Shruti or Vedas? In medical domain, it came from years of study with all other Pramanas. So how did we get it? Now, what they got in medical domain probably will pale in comparison with what the Rishis got. So after so many years of intense study, which is called tapas. So Rishis did intense tapas, and therefore they became mantra drashtaras. So therefore, yes, it is very similar to the medical domain example which I gave. The only thing is it is much more intense and probably much more long drawn. I also want to tell you one thing. How did Newton get the force of gravity? Force of gravity existed even before Newton saw. Force of gravity exists today also, but Newton found it. Newton sort of discovered it. How? Because it was a tapas. It was intense sort of meditation on some concepts, on some ideas. So force of gravity is apurusheya, as much as Veda is apurusheya. Apaurusheya, I should say, apaurusheya. It is there already. By intense contemplation and meditation, as much as Newton found the force of gravity, the Veda revealed itself to all the rishis. So therefore, that's what it is. If I may say so. Then often people say that there is no need to study Vedas, etc., since it is apara vidya. I use, so why not directly seek paravidya through pious life, meditation, and all that? I mean, this is a very common temptation that we get when we know a little bit of something. So I want to ask a simple question. Do we go straight to 10th standard and, PhD, or do we take some steps? And what is the value of these steps? It's very important for us to think. So apara vidya is required until we get enough of, please understand, I think a better example would clarify it. The child, when it begins to walk, it needs the walker. After it has mastered the art of walking, the child will throw the walker. But without that walker or the help of a mother or somebody who is probably the other walker, the possibility of the child walking would have been much delayed, imperfect. It could have been ridden with a lot of accidents and so on. So this apara vidya cannot be wished away. That's the journey in the process. So in other words, if you have to go to Mount Everest, do we need base camps or not? Do we just catapult straight to 11,000 meters, or we take a few steps and have a few base camps and so on? So apara vidya cannot be wished away. Apara vidya is not something which you can simply say it is not required. It is required at a certain stage of evolution. And then, why do we need temples if God is within us? Abrahamic religion asked this question to Hindus and so on. How do we answer it? Now, I would like to ask the question, do you need teacher and education institutions? Because every knowledge is printed and available in a book, is available in Google. Every possible knowledge is available in every possible modes that you can ask for. Then please ask, do you need a teacher? Do you need an educational institution? Do some students need tuition? If you can find an answer to it, you'll find an answer to this question also. Everybody knows that knowledge is available, but it is not easy to access them. simply not easy, and different people are made up with different kind of complexion, so they need different ways of accessing that knowledge. That is the idea behind the god and the temples and so on. Anyway, in law of conservation of divinity, we will also look at this issue in some detail. Then there are some questions on Sanatana Dharma. We say consciousness is nirguna, without attributes. Then how come it has a nature to do certain things? A good question. Actually, electricity is nirguna. Please understand, electricity is nirguna. It has no shape, no form, nothing. But then it heats up through a heater. It cools up through a refrigerator. It blows and dries through a industrial blower or a fan. It cuts through a electric hacksaw. It wets through a machine operated spray and so on. How does it work? In other words, it embodies itself with the right gadgets to achieve this. So in the same way, the nirguna Brahman embodies itself in this jagat and manifests itself and makes itself available in many ways. Again, we will understand it when we talk about law of conservation of divinity. So we should be able to see it. If we know how to see it, then this question is not something which we need to worry about. Okay. Sanatana Dharma, is it for creating a peaceful society, or for happy living, or for spiritual upliftment? Then what is our purpose of life? So putting these two questions together, as we told in the first session, Sanatana Dharma is for realizing one's true nature and hence liberate. That is the Moola Uddesha. That is the primary goal. There may be a lot of subordinate goals. The primary goal of Sanatana Dharma is for every one of us to realize who we are and reach that state of perfection. However, in the course of this journey, all that are listed up in the top will happen. Peaceful society, happy living, spiritual upliftment, realizing purpose of life, all that can happen. Just as, take this example, the goal of a good education is to become a valuable citizen. But in the process, so many things will happen. You will make money, you will get positions, you will be celebrated, you will be, all that can happen. They are not the goal of education. The goal of education is to become a very valuable citizen and realize and remove the ajnana from us. So Sanatana Dharma is like that. Okay, so these are some of the questions which I thought I will sort of quickly answer.